Imagine opening your eyes and hearing muffled voices, feeling your own heartbeat in your ears. But when you try to move a finger, no response. You are fully awake, every thought clear as day, yet your limbs lie useless and silent. In this waking nightmare, your mind screams in terror while your body remains as still as a coffin. Every hour stretches on like an eternity. Every second a reminder of your helplessness. You hear doctors above you, your family's tears falling on the pillow, yet you cannot cry out or even blink to tell them you are there. This is the horror of being locked inside your own body. Locked-in syndrome, comas, in the spectrum of consciousness. This scenario may seem like pure horror fiction, but it has a real-world counterpart. Locked-in syndrome is a neurological condition in which a person is completely paralyzed, but remains entirely awake and aware. People with this cannot speak or move their bodies, despite having fully intact brains. In fact, their EEG brainwaves look normal, reflecting preserved sleep-wake cycles and attention. As one medical source explains, LIS patients are aware but cannot move or communicate verbally due to complete paralysis of nearly all voluntary muscles, even though they can't speak. They often learn to communicate by blinking or moving their eyes, since hearing and cognition are unharmed. By contrast, a coma is more like a dead sleep. A person in true coma cannot be aroused by any stimuli, not sounds, it's not pain, and has no awareness at all. It's a medical emergency, as the brain's arousal system has shut down. If the brain's higher functions shut off completely, but the body continues its automatic processes, the person can enter a persistent vegetative state. In PVs, the eyes may open and close, but the brain has lost consciousness, self-awareness, and personality. Between these extremes lies the minimally conscious state. Patients show some flickers of awareness, but still cannot communicate consistently. In short, coma, unconscious, like very deep sleep, cannot be awakened by any stimuli. Vegetative state, wakeful, but entirely unaware. The person has lost higher brain functions and self-awareness. Minimally conscious, extremely limited awareness, may show inconsistent responses or eye movements indicating some conscious thought. Locked-in syndrome, fully conscious and thinking normally, but completely paralyzed. They only blink or move eyes to communicate. Locked-in syndrome is, in effect, the opposite of a vegetative state. In vegetative patients, the brain's higher regions are damaged and the person is unaware. In classic LIS, the higher brain is intact, but a stroke or injury to the brainstem disconnects it from the body. Thus, the mind remains fully awake, inside a body that feels like a prison. Brain scans illustrate these differences. In coma and anesthesia, studies show the brain's metabolism drops to extremely low levels. Massively reduced neural activity goes hand in hand with loss of consciousness. By contrast, the brains of locked-in patients continue humming with normal activity. Even their EEGs look like those of a sleeping, healthy person. Strikingly, modern imaging has revealed that some patients diagnosed with vegetative may harbor hidden awareness. In landmark research, scientists asked apparently vegetative patients to imagine playing tennis for yes and walking around their house for no. Remarkably, one young man's brain lit up in the expected promoter regions just like a healthy person's would. Day after day, he accurately answered personal questions by changing his thoughts. This proved that despite appearing unresponsive for years, the patient was thinking and understanding the whole time. Researchers now estimate that maybe 1 in 5 people labeled vegetative may in fact have a fully functioning mind, trapped in silence. In one study, up to 4 of 23 vegetative patients could willfully produce the brain patterns for yes and no on command. Hidden networks of brain activity, signatures of consciousness, have been found in other cases, suggesting that even without overt movement, a patient might be aware. In short, technology is discovering that consciousness can persist even when no one knows it's there. Now, imagine living as that hidden mind. The psychological horror is profound. You can see and hear every detail of the world. The sunlight falling on the bed, the softness of your pillow, the nurses whispering at your bedside, but you cannot respond. Despair and fear set in. Each minute feels endless when you have no way to prove you are truly awake. In classic locked-in accounts, patients describe being fully conscious and utterly alone in that experience. They retain memories of life before and desires to communicate, but instead lie silent and still. Time itself becomes a torment. Seconds stretch 2 minutes, minutes, 2 hours, because nothing changes around you and you can't move to stimulate yourself. Days blur together in darkness or pain, with no control. Even knowing that time is passing can drive someone to despair. As neuroscientist Chris Frith commented about this fate, it is difficult to imagine a worse experience than to be a functioning mind, trapped in a body over which you have absolutely no control. Every nerve in your brain pleads for release. Even thinking of a way to end the ordeal might become a sorrowful focus. Experts compared this to learned helplessness, where prolonged loss of control leads to hopelessness. A locked-in person can often feel claustrophobic in their own skin, trapped, inescapable, forever waiting. Some report hearing snippets of conversations or distant music while fully aware, but unable to answer, as if listening from beyond the grave. Worst of all is silence, the creeping realization that no one knows you're awake. Family and doctors may assume you're gone, and perhaps have even whispered about pulling the plug. Every fading sound, every slowed footstep in the corridor could mean abandonment. Against this backdrop of psychological torture, even small successes, a twitching eye, a blinking eyelid, become monumental. Families and therapists sometimes invent clever yes and no codes to salvage any connection. When it works, it's a miracle. The living mind reaches out from the dark. When it fails, the patient may sink deeper into oblivion. The horror is not just that a body is motionless, but that the mind knows that it is alone, unheard, and unseen. A final twist in the reality of terror. As you listen to this unsettling tale, consider the final, chilling twist. What if you were the locked-in patient? What if your reality was this script of whispers, and my voice was the only thing anchoring you to the world you can see but not touch? Perhaps you're already trapped behind your eyelids, hearing every word as though on a radio, while your body lies still. In that case, I hope my narration has given voice to your silence. The scientific truth is sobering. Consciousness does not always go quietly. Brains can remain aware even when bodies cannot act, and technology is only now starting to detect these hidden minds. Every statistic here, every fact about EEGs, fMRIs, and tennis imagining patients underscores the real possibility of the horror we've described. It's not just a nightmare, it's happening right now to people in hospitals. If this exploration of locked-in limbo unsettled you, remember, it's the calm, rational understanding of these conditions that can ultimately bring hope. Researchers and doctors are racing to improve communication with patients once thought unreachable. But until medicine catches up, all we can do is listen and imagine what it truly feels like. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the mind's darkest prison. If you want more cerebral horror grounded in science, don't forget to subscribe to Cerebral Fear. Every week, we bring you real stories and chilling facts from the edges of neuroscience. Until next time, stay aware, even when it scares you.